Cool. Hi. So I'm back. So today I've come and to talk about scaling a serverless team with some automation. And before I start, I'm going to pass over to Sam. So Sam is the founder of, or one of the co-founders of AWS Group. He's also kind of like our senior manager of the dev team. So yeah, he's the group.
The guy has to keep you in line.
We fix his bugs.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for having us. I'm Sam. This is actually my very first time at the Sydney User Group, so thank you for having us. It's amazing. The turnout here is brilliant and the location is amazing. This is an amazing building, so thank you for having us. I just want to say a quick few words and then hand back over to Dan. I'm not talking tonight. But yeah, I founded the business a couple of years ago with my brother Ryan. I built the first version of our school, so we have an online school that teaches people AWS and helps people get AWS certified. I built the first version of our school in a bedroom in my mother-in-law's bedroom. I had a chat with Ryan. We had this course on Udemy, and it was going quite well. It was a few months in, and we said, why don't we try and build? What if we could build the biggest cloud computing school, like the place that people come to learn AWS? That was kind of our crazy idea. And I had a few weeks owing to me of leave at my job, so we took the kids and my wife down to the in-laws in Hobart, and I put myself in a bedroom for 4 weeks and tried to build this school. But the challenge that I had is trying to build a learning management system in 4 weeks is very, very difficult. I spent, I think, 2 or 3 days wrestling with Moodle, and then just gave up in despair. It was never going to happen. And then I started looking at, a whole bunch of services that I'd used before, like Auth0 and Firebase and all these cool new services that I could call from the browser. And I realized if I could weave all those together with just a little bit of Lambda, just a few Lambda functions in the cloud to just do the very few things that we actually had to do in a protected mode in the cloud, then we could build this system. And this was before the term serverless existed. And it wasn't like this grand kind of vision to go serverless. We're going to build a serverless startup. It was just, how do I build a school in 4 weeks? It was just born out of necessity. So yeah, we managed to build this thing and get it live, and we started our own school, and it just kind of went crazy since then. And then people started, Amazon started talking about serverless, and so we started really getting into serverless. So we've been serverless since day one, just because of the acceleration that it gave us as a business early on. So yeah, Dan's going to talk a little bit tonight. Dan was actually our first developer hire. First dev on the team beyond myself. And Dan has been dealing with my technical debt for a good couple of years now. That was some of the joy of building.
And with this like totally untried serverless thing
that
you came up with.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? So Dan's going to talk about some of the challenges and some of the solutions that these guys have come up with in trying to take what we had done and scale it with I don't mean scale, like Lambda obviously scales automatically, but scale it with humans, with a team around it, and the tooling challenges and the scaling challenges around putting people around those kind of tools. So Dan's going to talk about that, and he's been doing a lot of work on our DevOps and development infrastructure in scaling our serverless teams. So very interesting what these guys have been doing. I just want to say we just launched our new website a couple of weeks ago. We get a lot of feedback online, but very rarely actually see people in real life, so it's really nice to be here. So I'd love your feedback. Like, come and talk to me afterwards. I'd just love to hear if you have used our new site. It's only been up for a couple of weeks. What do you think about it? And good things, bad things, everything. So please let us know. I was talking with Gary. We just launched a new course on certification preparation. So it's a new course on tips and tricks for like dealing with the real world issues of the Amazon exams, because a lot of if you're planning to get certified, a lot of the challenges of the AWS certifications are not the technical challenges; it's the comprehension of like how do they ask questions and how do you deal with the exams. So there's like a 3-hour course we've just launched. It's like tips and tricks for exam strategies for getting your certifications. It's a really good course. It's taught by a really good guy called Matthias in Canada. So we'll send a code out afterwards so you guys can all get that course for free. So Gary will send that out afterwards. So we'll send you all a promo code. Thanks for having us. I'm going to come back in November and actually give a real talk on how we build a school and go through some of the challenges, basically the talk that I've given at Serverless Conf and a few other places. So I hope to see you all again in November. Thanks, guys. I'll hand over to Dan now.
Hopefully he's not saying my talk's not a real talk. Sounds right. Yeah, so I'm a dev on the team at Guru. I guess I started as full stack, but more recently as I've been growing, I've been moving into a more DevOps kind of role. Again, out of necessity, that's what we do. So yeah, let's talk about that. So who here is serverless? Hands up. A few people. So maybe I'll like break it down a little bit. So who's running production serverless code? How about people who have maybe dabbled with serverless, played around with Lambda or something? So we've got a few more. And how about people who have heard of serverless but haven't used it yet, but you want to try it out? Yeah, that's good. All right, that's good. So this talk is for all of you. I mean, the people who are running production code are going to be like, oh yeah, that solves that problem. I'll do that tomorrow. The people who are learning or thinking of learning, this is going to be stuff that you need to think about if you're going to put this into production with your team. So. At a Guru, we use serverless everywhere and for basically everything. Yeah, that's Sam burning a server. That's right.
We need to vet your slides.
Vet my slides. So some of the ops problems that are already solved when you're using servers aren't solved when you're doing serverless. If you think about if you're building a .NET application, you have Visual Studio, you have all the tooling that comes along with Visual Studio around managing environments, that kind of stuff. You don't have that stuff with serverless. And problems like environments, the variables, so different variables for different developers, the encryption of those variables for your source code so you're not putting it on GitHub, your AWS accounts, provisioning your environment, your dev environments in AWS, deploying, new deployments for every dev. Your testing, your dev machines is a massive problem. How do you actually set that? It's not just a matter of installing Visual Studio or IntelliJ or something like that. There's nothing. There's no tools. And then security of your code and of your serverless architectures. So
are you saying that serverless doesn't need testing?
No, it does need testing.
Oh.
It's just an unsolved. Like, there's different ways. You have to think about it a little bit differently how you do some of the stuff. So, I'll get into that more. So, a little bit on Serverless Framework, because we use Serverless Framework and we have since before it was called Serverless Framework. It was called Jules at one point. Does everyone, hands up who knows what Serverless Framework is? So, Serverless Framework is a tool. It's a CLI tool for your system, your dev machine. It wraps up it's a wrapper for CloudFormation, so it generates CloudFormation for you based on configuration that you give it. It has a bunch of plugins, which are really, really cool. So plugins that manage lots of different things. We've developed probably 6 or 7 of them ourselves. That is a massive thing in terms of going forwards and more acceleration when you're developing with serverless, because it means you can, just take someone else's library and add that into your system, and then you get that thing. So an example of a plugin that we've developed is a plugin called Serverless offline plugin, I think we called it. So basically what that does is it uses Docker to spin up many of the serverless services you might be using. For example, we spin up Lambda containers within Docker, and then we connect them together and we can actually simulate your serverless framework project on your own machine. So that's an example of a really cool tool, which you get if you go and use serverless framework. However, it assumes a whole bunch of things about how it's used, and one thing that, for better or for worse, they've chosen to do is support multi-cloud. And what that means is they have to abstract on top of the clouds so that they can deploy on any of the clouds. And that is good if you want to do that, but we haven't met that many people who actually want to do multi-cloud deployments for serverless. They usually just want to deploy to one. And for us, that's AWS. So you sometimes have to think about things in an abstracted sense, and sometimes they don't actually give support for services on AWS because that, or an equivalent service to that, is not on Azure or Google Cloud. So these are some of the assumptions in terms of the tool and how it works. So they assume that users have only one project. And I say that because of our experiences in using serverless framework. I'll explain a bit more later. They assume that all your cloud resources are in that one project, as in there's nothing that you're going to use in that project that exists outside of that project or isn't managed by that project. And they just kind of say, well, environment variables are someone else's problem, not our problem. The most that they actually give you is they've just given you an option to do Lambda environment variables, but they don't think about things like different dev environments or anything like that. They have stages, but there's no nice way to handle that they've built into their system to handle environment variables for those stages. Luckily, they use YAML, so you can actually do that yourself. I'll show some code later to show you how that works. So this is where we're at. We have 13 serverless framework projects. I think we started with one, and then it just got ridiculous, like how much stuff is in this one project. So we thought, let's just move them out. So we have like a forum service. It's its own serverless framework project. We have an identity service, which manages signups and all that kind of stuff. It's its own project, and there's a whole bunch of other ones. And we have 13 environments, so that combines like prod, staging, testing, and then all the dev environments. So what that ends up being in terms of managing your config files, so each serverless framework project has one config file per stage or per environment. And you basically have to manage all these config files that are lying around your project. And the more devs you add, the more complicated that becomes. So we have 169 config files in total. And that's 169 places we have to keep updated. So if a dev goes and adds a new environment variable in their feature, then every other dev has to spend a bunch of time adding that environment variable to their environment so that they can actually deploy the project. And that was a really big problem.
So an example of that would be like our email service is Campaign Monitor. So when people participate on our forums, they'll get an email saying, someone's just commented on your thread. And if we change something about Campaign Monitor, like we set up a different account, we need to change the account ID that the system uses to talk, the Lambda functions used to talk to Campaign Monitor's API, we have to go and update it in every single config file.
Yeah, it's that, and also, a dev comes along and they add some new feature and they need some new environment variable for that. And so they just add it to theirs and they don't add it to anyone else's.
They get to add it to all the others.
Well, they'll add it to like prod and staging because otherwise they can't deploy the code, but they won't touch anyone else's.
But another developer comes along and suddenly the thing doesn't work for them, and it's like, why doesn't this work? And it goes round and round and round.
Yeah, and we kind of went through a lot of iterations of like, how do we solve this problem? We started off really badly with having these like encrypted environment variable files where we encrypt the entire environment variable file. And then you would like go and do your commit and you just get a conflict. And so you'd have to like ask the dev team who like changed this file. Like did you add like an environment variable or did you edit one? Like what did you do? Can you tell me so I can like
you can't merge binary encrypted files.
Exactly. Yeah. So that wasn't a good solution. And the next solution we went to is kind of a side to what I'm talking about. The next solution we went to was using KMS and having a serverless framework plugin, which would allow you to just type in a command line command into your computer, and you would send a new environment variable to AWS. They would encrypt it with KMS and give you back the encrypted form, and then you would put it into your config file, and that way you knew if a specific variable was changed in a particular commit. Instead of just having the entire encrypted variables file changed, you now know, the whatever email service variable changed, so I need to update that. So that was our sort of second iteration of that. And this is now our third iteration of solving that problem. So
I think we need a new environment, Dan, because they're two very unlucky numbers up there. It's like unlucky squared.
I'm gonna add Ash's new environment, so we'll be able to pull it in. It's okay. So yeah, introducing a tool you might all be familiar with from the server days, Ansible. So who knows what Ansible is? Who's used it? Okay, cool. Unless we're starting at a good same page. So yeah, Ansible is used for obviously managing your various deployments of your system and making sure that they're all doing the same thing. So to put it simply, luckily Ansible has the ability to target your own computer, and that's how we use it. So I'll show you that. So now what we have is each developer just maintains one Ansible vault with their own variables. So an Ansible vault is basically an encrypted file which Ansible manages through the Ansible vault command, and you just type in your password for that file. And that now just has all the variables for all the projects across an entire code base. We've gone back to each dev having to manage their own environment variables file, but it's just the one file, and they don't conflict because of the way that we've set it up. So we have a custom Ansible filter which actually sends the environment variables to KMS to be encrypted. So I'll show you later what that filter looks like. It's a really simple Python module. But the way that it actually works is, this is a Ginger 2 template, which is what Ansible uses for templating. So you basically just have the environment variable that came from the Ansible vault, and you use the pipe symbol to send it to this filter, KMS encrypt. And KMS encrypt will do the call out to AWS for you, and it'll run the file, which is really nice, I have to say. I'm glad I came up with that solution. And that's what it is. AWS encrypted 256. So, yeah, Ansible uses the template and the variables to create config files in each of the serverless framework projects. This is one example of that. So this is in our identity service. You just get a Ginger 2 file. You have a destination where that config file needs to be written. So that's in the location where we have all the configs for that service. Delegate to localhost just means run that command on localhost, because I'm not doing anything with servers. I'm just using Ansible in a different way by targeting my own machine as the only server or the only host. And then you can actually pass in all the different environment variables that you need for that template. So pretty simple. And then we have another task for calling out to serverless framework. So there's a bunch of people now. There's an AWS working group in the Ansible project who are actually building a lot of the tooling around AWS and serverless and stuff like that. So the serverless module for Ansible was written by Ryan Scott Brown, who is one of our lecturers actually. He did the Lambda course. He works for Red Hat and he does a lot on Ansible. So check him out on Twitter and follow him. He's a really smart guy. What this does is just passes a bunch of stuff to the serverless framework command and runs it. So that way we don't have to do a shell call or anything like that. So it just makes it easy to read when you're looking at it in here. Yep.
So you have KMS encrypted variable that's already encrypted.
So the Ansible vault is encrypted so that we can commit it, but the variables inside the Ansible vault are not encrypted. So the reason we encrypt it is for when we deploy it on AWS, it needs to be encrypted on there. So it's two different situations that we're encrypting in.
Because you don't want any kind of plain text information stored inside the Lambda functions that get deployed to AWS. That's why they have to hit KMS to decrypt.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, so this KMS is what? It's a tool which is there on the server, or it's there on AWS?
Yeah, sorry, I should have explained what KMS is. So KMS is the key management service on AWS. Basically, they keep your private key and you call their API with your access key ID and secret access key, and they will encrypt the variable and give you back your ciphertext, which you can save and use. And then other AWS services can call KMS to decrypt. So you can use AWS policies to manage what services and what users can actually do the decrypting and stuff like that.
So our Lambda functions, the code for our Lambda functions have encrypted information embedded in them. Ansible generates it, and when it deploys out to Lambda, it's got, here's the secret key to talk to campaign monitor, but it's encrypted, and the Lambda function goes to KMS to get the key to decrypt it, so that we're never deploying code to Lambda that has like plain text secrets in it.
And so if you go into the Lambda management console and you see the environment variables, they're all just encrypted ciphertext. They're not plain text.
Like the trolley face that you showed before.
Not quite like that.
It's not the face, the thing next to it.
Does that answer your question?
So when it travels from this one server to KMS, it's not encrypted, but from KMS it will come back and it will get encrypted.
That's correct, yeah. So you send the plain text to KMS and they return the encrypted one. So that just calls out to the serverless framework to do a deploy. So I mentioned that we have some CloudFormation resources outside.
Just if you go in the last page, where are these variables?
These ones?
No, the ones that you'll be passing into the Lambda function.
The KMS.
I've left them out, but
All
there's, I believe there's not. No, I haven't left them out. What happens is we've written a config file here, and within the serverless YAML, we're actually loading that config file into the serverless YAML, and that's how we populate the environment variables for the Lambda functions. I think I've got an example of that later. So we have some stuff that's managed outside of our serverless framework projects. Things like KMS, that's something that's shared across all 13 projects. DynamoDB, we have tables that exist between projects because we send data from multiple services to Dynamo. We use Redshift, we use VPCs, and we use Elastic Transcode.
Like transcode, it doesn't have CloudFormation support unless that's changed.
It doesn't, but you can use custom resources.
Yeah. So
We're actually currently solving that at the moment.
There's some things that it's quite difficult to use in CloudFormation.
Yeah. So what do? So we manage these stacks in Ansible as well, and that's quite a nice thing because what we would have to do before is, like I said, you can use policies to tell other services on AWS if they can access KMS or not. So that means you have to have a policy that knows about all the Lambda functions you've got. Okay, so now you've got a circular dependency between the environment variables that need to be encrypted before they get deployed, and then the functions that use them. So what we would have to do is deploy a shell KMS stack that didn't have any references to the Lambda functions that needed to use it, and then we would have to deploy all the serverless framework projects, and then we would have to redeploy a new stack of KMS, or like update the KMS stack, with the policy that included all the Lambda functions that needed to have access to it. So it was a real pain. And Ansible solves that problem because Ansible's got the ability to do multiple tasks in order, so we can just do that in Ansible really easily. So we have a bunch of stacks which are literally just bootstraps. They just deploy a stack with like basically nothing in them, and then we can do all our serverless framework deployments, and then at the end we do an update on the KMS stack to tell it these are all the serverless framework projects, or these are all the Lambda functions that need to have access to that. You may have noticed that we use Redshift, which is not serverless. But that's okay, because we don't use it for transactional stuff. We just use it as a reporting warehouse. But nevertheless, we have to manage it. So how do we manage schema migrations? Well, there's a tool called Flyway, which we were already using, which is running manually, but you can run shell commands from Ansible, so we do that. And that is really nice because we can manage not only the initial creation of the database schema when we deploy these Redshift stack initially, but we can also have individual schema migrations for the, so a lot of the serverless framework services have their own schemas within the Redshift database, which they manage, and they have their own migration tasks in Ansible as well. So they, if a developer adds some new migrations, then another developer can just right. Yeah, so we can basically have migration tasks within each of our serverless framework projects, or within, sorry, so there's each of the serverless framework services will have 3 steps in Ansible. It will have a config write step, a deploy step, and then the ones that have migrations have a migration step. And so when a developer wants to upgrade or migrate his database, he just runs Ansible again, and Ansible will just, Flyway will actually manage where they're up to in terms of migrations, and Ansible just runs it. So that's
Give an example, how do we migrate schema from test environment to prod environment using?
So this is just for managing one environment. So we don't like. Do you mean like in terms of
from test to prod?
Well, each like test or production or whatever environment has to obviously we need to run this as well against those. So that's a separate thing. I guess I'm not sure if I understood correctly. This is pretty rare though. Changing schema on our Redshift databases is really rare because it's not something we use in a transactional sense. I mean, it's mainly a place we just put reporting data, I guess. So like if we're doing transactions, the transactions would go into there so that we can do it.
Yeah, our source of truth for data is Dynamo, and we use DynamoDB streams to stream out updates to our database so that we can do like joins, hooray, SQL joins. It's great. So yeah, it's not something that any of our critical systems rely on. Yeah.
We actually don't use Ansible in our CI/CD pipeline yet. It's something we're using as a tool for managing developer environments mostly. So a lot of the time with production and staging, we would just run Flyway manually if it needed to be run, because the majority of the time we don't run it. I think we have a total of 5 migrations over the entire time we've used Redshift, so it's pretty small. So some takeaways. Serverless is definitely not optless, because there was some crap going around early on that serverless was optless.
Hashtag no ops.
Right.
Hashtag no ops.
A load of crap. It's like more ops than
Yeah,
no ops.
it's just ops. Now the devs have to do the ops. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what Charity Major said. It's your turn, devs. In a way, serverless framework could be better. I think it's not necessarily wholly their fault. They probably never intended it to be used this way. It's probably our fault. A lot of people aren't running massive production workloads in serverless yet. A lot of people are doing small workflows, and so serverless framework's great for that, because if you're just doing like, if something lands in this bucket, send me an email. That's like so easy to do with one serverless framework project. You don't even need like anything. You just run it from your computer. But if you're going to run a whole LMS, which is based on like using serverless framework as your tool, then it's a bit sort of lacking in some areas.
Are you using step functions in your
No, we haven't started using any step functions yet. I guess we sort of, before step functions were released, we sort of started solving some of the orchestration problems ourselves around like, in what order do things have to run and stuff like that. And so in a way, like we're set up so that we don't need step functions. But I guess there are certain situations in which step functions could be really good. So
What about serverless framework support this?
I haven't used it. I don't know if they do. Do they? I'm not sure. There's a plugin? Okay. Yeah.
Question, because you have got that many services, there are obviously dependencies in the S3 bucket name of the other service that is creating. Okay, an example is the easy one. S3 bucket name is because it's the name.
Yeah.
Some other things that are probably happening. In other words, back in the other old days, if you need a CLI describe to find out before you deploy, that type of thing, how do you find the describe function to before you so that you pass that into your Ansible?
So
Because Ansible,
So some bucket names are, I don't think bucket names is a good one because we only have a couple of buckets and they always have the same name. So we just put them in the config file. But maybe a better example is maybe DynamoDB tables. I'm not sure because they're definitely
service A is accessing service B's DynamoDB.
yeah. So a lot of the time we construct that ourselves already upfront. Yeah. So because we're managing all of the services from the same place, we can just tell each of the services what it's called. So we're not actually calling out to do a describe in it for that particular thing. I'm not sure if we might have to in the future.
The argument that you'll get from the serverless framework team, and at least when I've raised this in the past, maybe not in the last 6 months, is that your services should be independent and talk through APIs. They shouldn't be accessing each other's internal resources.
Which is great in theory.
Exactly. And then there's the real world. Yeah. So
I think the trouble with
but it's not designed that way. It's designed that you should talk through, externally, publicly accessible APIs to each other through a defined contract.
So you guys are heavily dependent on a naming convention.
Yeah.
I am assuming that would be the name of this service in that environment.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll be like, users table dash production or something like that. I think one of the problems with serverless framework, and they'll say certain things about how you should build your architectures, and then you look at the tool, like what they actually do in their tooling, and it's kind of like a pain in the ass sometimes because they do things like, oh yeah, you have a Lambda function, and then you list your events that can invoke that function. And then what happens is they assume that Lambda function owns that resource that is invoking it, but that's not the case most of the time. Like we have DynamoDB tables that exist, and the Lambda functions are just side effects of things being put in the streams, and there might be more than one Lambda function that gets invoked by the same event happening. So they've kind of got the dependency the wrong way around. And we kind of started to notice that because we were trying to do things like queues to communicate between microservices and stuff like that, and it just wasn't working out because of the way that they do it.
So I mean, I guess from a high level, my experience in this crazy new world is like it gives you a lot of acceleration when it comes to like scaling. Like we've never ever had a conversation of like, oh, we're doing a mail out tomorrow, are we going to have enough capacity? Or, Black Friday's hitting and we're 100 times the traffic of normal. Are we going to be able to deal with it? We just literally don't have those conversations anymore. I used to be a .NET dev, spin up web servers and load balancers, and all those conversations are gone. But the side effect is this stuff's so new is that the tooling and the developer infrastructure isn't there yet. It's immature, so you end up spending the time on the other side solving some of the tooling problems. The good thing is if you use something like Serverless Framework, they're very, very open, they're a very active community, they're really great, smart people, and they're constantly looking for feedback and input. And they've changed so much in the last year. The improvements, the maturity of the tooling is a lot better.
And it's also open source, so you can contribute if you want.
Yeah, and our developers do contribute to Serverless Framework. So
They have been known.
What happens if different environments have different .NET library versions, for instance?
We don't use
How would you
.NET.
handle that?
Well, we only use Node.js, but so we did. I mean, I'll answer a different question which you didn't ask because we don't use .NET. But
classic politician.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But what do you do? So we use Node.js, and we did get into a situation where we have shared libraries between different projects. And so the way we do that is, or the way we manage that is with NPM, private NPM modules. So we have a separate folder in our code base which just has a bunch of things that we share. And they could be things like a library that knows how to call out to KMS to decrypt the variables. So that's something we do separately. I think we have another one called DynamoDB River, which manages, it just has a bunch of utilities for managing DynamoDB. So, I know that didn't answer your actual question, but hopefully it was interesting.
But within services, each service deals with its own libraries and then versions of those libraries, because you deploy them independently and they should exist independently.
Yeah.
It's a shared code we version through an NPM repository.
That's right. Yeah. So we use, each serverless framework project is its own, I guess, NPM project or node project. Yeah. So it's got its own package.json, and we do our own NPM install. Every time you have to install dependency, it's like cd into service 1, yarn install, cd into service 2, yarn install. So, final takeaway, I think, is we can teach an old dog a new trick. Ansible was never meant for this, but do what we want, whatever we want, however we want. And it is actually a really awesome tool for this kind of use case. And there's a lot of impact as well. I would recommend you reach out to the Ansible guys. Unfortunately, they aren't progressive enough to use Slack. They still use IRC. So I don't talk to them as much as I should because I hate IRC.
That's retro, man. That's
It's
awesome.
retro. It's cool. Yeah. I log in and I'm like, well, where's my history? Anyway, so yeah, just to maybe answer some of your questions that went through and maybe to look at the configs a little bit in more detail. So this is the serverless YAML. I don't know if you've seen this. This is actually over 300 lines long, but I had to take a screenshot, so too bad. So some of the I guess environment stuff is here, but we can also import with YAML. You can do a thing where you actually load up other YAML files into the current YAML context. So that's how we do our environment variables. So we know where all the environment variables are, and they're named in a certain way. So it's like config-dan for my environment. So the stage which you run serverless framework with is Dan. And so we can just say, well, load the config file that is called config-stage variable, which is Dan, and then it'll load it in. And then you can actually use those variables kind of like this, right? So this is using an environment variable, but there you go, that's a good example. So you can do self:/custom.service.purchases.dynamodb.table name, and that'll actually have come from a config file. And that config file will already have the encrypted version of that variable. So you don't have to manage any encryption.
This is used by Ansible.
This is the serverless framework config, but
Okay,
we've already run Ansible at this stage, and Ansible has already created all the config files.
It's filled in what these variables are
in another file.
later it's elsewhere in the file.
Yeah, in another.
You can convert this into a CloudFormation template also, yeah?
Well, that's what serverless framework does for you. So
No, I mean, is it possible to create a separate CloudFormation YAML? I didn't find the command like that, that's why.
do you mean
I need after all this, sometimes people need YAML, CloudFormation YAML, but I didn't find a direct command to create serverless configuration.
you mean when you run this,
Yeah,
you want to have CloudFormation YAML outside, you want it to generate.
It's transparently create the YAML, right? Deploy, because I need a template. You go to the template designer and the architecture of the serverless. And
Yeah. So this actually, one of the side effects of running a deploy or a package in serverless framework is you get an actual CloudFormation file. It's in the .serverless folder. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah. That's.
The thing is that it's automatically you get
It doesn't.
information in the CloudFormation console.
Yeah.
See?
From the resource I can get that.
Yeah, you can see it in AWS as well. This is a Ginger file, Ginger2 file. So I already showed some of this, but yeah, you use the filters to. Well, that's the format of one of the config files that is generated by Ansible. But obviously, instead of having that, it'll actually have just like a ciphertext instead. So that's what they look like. I don't think I have a screenshot of one with ciphertext. This is the entire bootstrapping of the Redshift stack. So, this is another cool thing I haven't mentioned. So, Redshift is within a VPC, right? And so we don't have it just open to 0.0.0.0/0. That'd be stupid. So, how do we actually manage the schema migrations in Ansible? So, in this case, I do have to call out to AWS, not to do it to Scribe though. So, we create the stack. We use a shell command to this website to get our current IP address for the local machine, so your dev machine. And then we actually go to the EC2 security group using the EC2 group module in Ansible. And we write that in the ingress rules that your current IP address should be allowed access to actually get access to Redshift on the correct port. And that sets up Ansible to be able to connect in later and do its migrations. Yeah. I'll finish up quickly. So our top level playbook is just really simple, just the order of things that happen, load configs, write environment variables, install dependencies, and then bootstrap a bunch of stacks, and then run migrations and eventually deploying serverless framework projects. And this is the filter I was talking about earlier. So this is all it does, right? It's got two commands. It uses the Python Boto3 library, which is the AWS library, and calls out to KMS with the correct information to encrypt or decrypt. And you can use that as a filter anywhere in your templates in Ansible.
So Ansible can call the Python function.
Ansible written in Python.
Yeah, but I was saying that in this case, you wrote it in Python and you use that.
You just make a filters folder and you dump that file in, and then you can call it from anywhere in your Ansible file.
That's in the filter, right?
Yeah, that's a filter, Ansible filter. Yeah. Really easy. One final thing, serverless conf, which we also run, is the next one's coming up. It's in New York. Not saying you have to get there. That's going to be really awesome.
If you can convince your managers for the training spend to fly to New York, it's an awesome conference.
It really is amazing as
Is it a free ticket?
Maybe we could work something out.
Yeah. As a dev going to this, it's really, really valuable. I was saying to someone earlier that Microsoft actually sent their Azure Functions team to man the booth, and they were telling me how they run Node.js functions. And they actually they don't run like a Node container, they run a C# container. And then they have Node.js, the runtime, as a DLL for C#. And then they run your function within that. Pretty cool.
Classic.
Pretty cool stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great conference. We're running it in New York in October, and yeah, you get all the actual engineers from the cloud teams, like the people who build Lambda, the people who build Azure Functions, Google are a sponsor, IBM, like everybody's there. It's really cool.
And even some of the smaller players in the serverless space, some of these startups that are coming up, attend as well, and they're showing off some really cool tooling that you can use.
There's all these startups that are trying to compete with Lambda. It blows my mind. It's amazing.
Well, there's those kind of startups, and then there's the startups that develop tools,
Yes.
like databases and
like FaunaDB and
serverless framework.
Serverless framework, a sponsor, yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for your questions. I hope you enjoyed it.
And I just want to say, I'll be back in November. I'll give a talk. It won't be nearly as hardcore as this, I'm sorry. It's going to be more of a story on Eclair and the startup and some of the stuff we did in serverless. It'll still be technical, but not so hardcore. So I apologize in advance, but I hope to see you guys then.
And I do try to make my talks a little bit fun with the memes and stuff. But yeah, if you have any feedback for me, you can ping me on Twitter. I'm always happy to have new followers as well.
Cool.
Any questions? Yeah.
Any questions?
It's a question for Sam. So a lot of us are doing carpentry courses, and I know that Matthias has recently launched the sort of helper to get us through some of the associate courses. Can you share some more like future exciting stuff that CloudFormation is going to be doing?
That's a great question. So we just raised a Series A funding for the business, so that's great. We've now taken on some partners helping us to scale it. We're going to be launching Azure courses in a couple of weeks from now. Don't hold me to that date. It's been a couple of weeks from now for a while now, but we're going to be doing Azure certifications, Google certifications, and AWS. So we're going with all the clouds and Linux certifications. So all LPIC and Red Hat. So we're launching. I mean, it was always our kind of idea. Our goal was to be the place to learn cloud computing. It wasn't just AWS. It's just that's where most of the market is at, and that's what we love. But yeah, we got a whole bunch of new content coming out. We've also got a lot of new AWS offerings in the pipeline that will come out in a couple of months from now. Really interesting stuff, but I can't tell you what it is. But please, keep updated. If you join our site, you can join it for free, and then you'll get emails as we release new content. And as I said, we will send a promo code out to everyone here to get Matthias's course, because if you are thinking about getting Amazon certified or you want to get a better score than last time, it's a really good course. Matthias literally got 100% on the CSA exam the first time he did it. The guy is insane. I don't know how he does it. So yeah.
Do you have any apps offline?
Yes, we have an app coming. Sorry.
Coming.
Yes, it's in production right now. The developer is back in Melbourne. We don't let him sleep. We've been wanting it for a long time. It'll come out with a new release probably in October. It's in production, offline sync, and all the new content we're releasing will be all supported with the app as well. So not just the certification stuff, but we've got a bunch of new stuff coming.
That's iPad.
And iPad, Android, mobile, everything. Yeah.
And don't forget you can download the individual videos already on the site.
Yeah, but then that is
Not as nice, but
It's annoying.
if you need to download it for offline, it's a way. Is there another question?
No more questions?
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much. Thanks to CloudFormation. Next same time, same place, next month. See you from Freshworks and Sofas. Thank you all for coming.